I'm Abby Ernest-Beck, and I read Allegiant by Veronica Roth, which was 526 pages. This book is set in the future after a war that apparently caused a bunch of genetic mutations. And so they did a bunch of experiments to see if they could get the genes back to normal, and it takes place in Chicago, which is one of the cities they were doing these experiments. This book is the third book in a series, and after the second book, Insurgent, the faction system died where they had people split up into different factions based on their qualities and personalities. So, Triss and her boyfriend Tobias and a bunch of her friends, most of the main characters, decide to leave the city, see what's out there, and they end up at the Bureau of Genetic Welfare, where they learn the history of Chicago, and they learn that there's these guys testing it, and they're the ones who've been running it the whole time. But they also learn that the Bureau is involved in some kind of shady stuff because they let a whole bunch of people be poor and starving, and also if an experiment doesn't work out, they'll go and wipe all their memories, which is as bad as killing someone, really, because that takes away who they are. So they befriend someone named Nita, who is planning to steal the memory serum so that they can't wipe out the memories. But Triss has a bad feeling about it. She tries to get Tobias not to do it, but he decides to help her anyway. So he disables the security stuff, and just as they're about to go steal the serum, Triss finds out that they're actually trying to get the death serum, and she manages to stop the plan. But in the process, Uriah gets really hurt and ends up in the hospital in a coma that he ends up dying from later. And then a little bit after that, the Bureau decides that since the Chicago experiment is failing and has broken out in violence, they're going to go wipe the memories in that city like they have in so many others. And since all the people who grew up in that city obviously do not want that to happen, they devise a plan where they're going to steal the memory serum and use it on the Bureau of Genetic Welfare to reset their memories so they aren't as evil and don't want to do all these bad things. So the plan is that Caleb is going to be the one who breaks into the weapons lab and steals the memory serum, because when you break into the weapons lab, a death serum is released that will kill you, and he wants to be the one to volunteer for that because he feels guilt from betraying Triss in the previous book. So he decides he's going to go in there. Triss stays to help him out with it, and Tobias and a few of the others go back to the city so Tobias can apologize for pretty much being part in what caused Uriah's death, and also so that his mom can make a treaty to end the violence. So they go back to the city. Triss stays with Caleb and actually decides to take his place because she might be able to resist the serum. So she decides she's going to break into the weapons lab, manages to resist the serum, but then she gets killed by one of the Bureau members, David. And so she manages to release the serum and fix everything. So it's kind of like a happy, sad ending. And then, of course, Tobias is really sad. He actually tries to erase his memories because he doesn't want to have to live with that. But Christina convinces him not to, and then they all move back to the city, and the city of Chicago is saved. So some of the themes in this book, humans are flawed, and that can't be changed. We are inherently violent. We as humans always want to direct blame at someone else or something else. I don't know, genetics in this book is a source of blame. Also, another theme that I saw was who you are is in your memories, not your genes. It's in what you in your mind, not in your genes. Yeah, so those were some of the themes I saw. Main characters, Triss was the protagonist. She narrated the first two and part of the third one. She's 16, grew up in Chicago. Her mom worked with the Bureau of Genetic Welfare. Tobias also narrates. He's Triss's boyfriend. His name is also Four, because he only has 4 fears. And let's see, and then David is the antagonist, and he's the leader of the Bureau of Genetic Welfare. He doesn't like genetically damaged people. And then Evelyn isn't really a protagonist or an antagonist. She's not really a good guy or a bad guy. She's Tobias's mother and the leader of the factionless in Chicago. But in the end, she helps stop the war there, so I guess she could be considered good. So, yeah, overall, it was a pretty good book, and I think it wrapped up some of the story really well. I'm glad I read it. Yeah.